Some of you may know this is part of the Manuscript Hub, Manuscript Writing Hub activities. The Manuscript Writing Hub holds a series of training, all mostly focused to enhancing the ability of participants to write manuscripts. One of the things we've observed over the years, both nationally and internationally, is that there's a focus on two things: grants writing and early career development. While many end up having grants, very few have the competency of translating the knowledge that they have generated through the activities from the grants into manuscripts. We find out that this affects profiling of not only the individual, but also the institution and the country. For countries, decisions are taken by unearthing high quality manuscripts to formulate policies at levels like WHO, and I'm sure many of you are aware. So when we, the elites in the academia that's supposed to support national development, and not generating the evidence that allows policymakers to unearth evidence to inform policies and practices of our countries, then we are, I guess, adjudicating our roles in a lot more way than we ever can think. So we had structured for multiple, I think this is our second or third year running, yeah, training on manuscript writing. And we're really glad we've succeeded on a number of this. But we felt that beyond that, the senior career researchers, the people that support the early career researchers, they need focus also. So we are starting, this is our first training for senior career researchers. It's completely structured differently from others, knowing that this is just a facilitation. You are the experts, and together we will be able to make decisions that should enhance the practices within the institution. The way the meeting is structured is supposed to be 4 weeks of online engagement, but it's 8 weeks in duration, which means after the first 1 hour engagement online like this, we'll spend the next 2 weeks deliberating, discussing, exchanging thoughts, and reaching consensus at the end of the next 2 weeks as to the way forward in improving practices. And even if we have to influence institutional practices, we can make a difference. And that's why we're senior career researchers. We can and we should make a difference, whichever way it is, individual or institution. The first of this 4-week session will be taken by my brother and friend, a senior erudite scholar, Professor Ajo. We call him Uncle Debo. Uncle Demo is, everybody calls him Uncle Demo. So you probably will let you understand why he's best fitted to take this topic. He's gentle, he's easygoing, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy listening to him this morning. I always enjoy listening to him. He's easygoing. He passes his knowledge, and so you are the one actually generating the knowledge. Therefore, it's my pleasure this morning to please welcome Professor Ademola Jr., Uncle Debo, to please take
Thank
us
you.
through the next 1 hour. Over.
Okay.
Just before Uncle Demo starts, please, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat box. We'll keep on nursing. If we're few, we can call on people to ask directly, but otherwise, we would be unearthing the questions from the chat box and sharing with Uncle Demo. Over to you, Uncle Demo. Thank you.
Okay, so good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me, Professor Morenike Upong. I hope my screen is clear. Can you please confirm?
Yes,
can you see
it is.
Screen?
We can see it.
Very
yes,
good. Okay, so what role so good morning, everyone in the house, wherever you are around the world. Greetings from Ibadan, Nigeria. So the title of my presentation is Role of Supervisors and Mentors in Career Development of Junior Faculties in Nigeria. And so I have my outline. So just knowing that the participants are senior people, we try to talk about the definition of supervision and mentorship, and have a distinction between the two. What do mentors, mentees stand to gain in a relationship? Finding a mentor and working under one. I will also talk about my experience with mentors and specifically what you as mentors can do to accelerate the career development of junior faculty, and we conclude. So just by way of definition, who a supervisor is or what supervision is. So it's a process of guiding, instructing, and helping a student complete a research project as required for the completion of a training program. So a supervisor helps to guide and instruct a student. And the primary goal is to enable that student complete his or her training and earn a degree. So the supervisor uses his research experience to guide the student and help him or her to develop and implement a research plan. The relationship between the supervisor and the student is strictly formal because the student typically in many universities is assigned to a supervisor. And many times the relationship ends when the student completes his or her own program and graduates and move on. So I've identified 7 roles here just as a form of summary. So a good supervisor should help a candidate to develop a robust research protocol, secure funding opportunities if this is needed, provide oversight during the implementation, help with interpretation of data, and very importantly, and that's why I highlight this in green, that the supervisor should help the candidate develop critical thinking skills. I'm focusing my discussion on postgraduate training, knowing fully well that many of you will be supervising at the postgraduate level. And then offer constructive criticisms and, of course, prepare the candidate for examination. These are the 7 responsibilities or role of supervisor in postgraduate research. Now, a supervisor is a very important person in the life of a student who is coming up. And we know that effective supervision plays an important role in the outcome of postgraduate training. And when you get a good supervisor, you will receive appropriate guidance that is going to establish you as a researcher. And in turn, you will equip the next generation of students. So if you are fortunate to have a good supervisor, you will learn good skills, valuable skills, relevant to research, and you will be able to pass that same skill to others. And I want to just bring out this quote just to illustrate the significance of supervisors in the career development of an academic staff. A truly great supervisor is hard to find, difficult to part with, and impossible to forget. So let's leave supervision and go to mentoring now. So what exactly is it? It's a relationship in which a senior faculty who have useful skills, experience, knowledge, and wisdom offer these skills, guidance, support, and opportunity to a junior faculty for that junior faculty's own professional development. So you are all senior people. You have gained valuable skills. You have knowledge. You have wisdom from experience. And you are expected to pass this on to young faculty. So mentoring is a personal relationship, and it involves an interaction between a mentor and mentee. And the mentor, of course, have more experience and influence within the organization. He has advanced rank, he teaches and he develops a mentee. And But we need to stress that the relationship is not that of a tabula rasa. That is, the mentee is not an empty vessel that the mentor just pour ideas. It's supposed to be a mutually beneficial relationship. So oftentimes we say mentees should be proactive, they should reach out, because mentors can also learn from mentees. Now, having defined the two concepts, let us try to see the difference. Because oftentimes people make the mistake, whether a supervisor is also a mentee. No. So I have the distinction between the two. First, the relationship between a mentor and mentee is personal and informal, whereas that of supervisors is formal. That of supervisor and the student is formal. The mentor typically is interested in the career development of the mentee, and the primary interest of the supervisor is to get the student to complete the research. For mentoring relationship is usually a long haul, whereas for supervisor is time-bound. Once the student ends the program, he exits from it, either a fellowship, master, PhD, and for some students, you never see them again. So mentors and mentee enter a relationship voluntarily, whereas the relationship between students and supervisors is done in a very formal way. I will have to emphasize here that it is quite possible that the supervisor become a mentor, but it's not in all cases. Just if you reflect on your own experience on your journey so far, you realize that there are many students you have supervised. Some of them they never get in touch with you again. And some you have gone to become their mentor. So a supervisor may become a mentor, but it's not in all cases that all supervisors end up being mentors. Okay, so I like to look at the supervisor-student relationship and that of a conveyor belt. You know, when you're on a conveyor belt, there are many items. Over the years, student come, student go. You provide them with the guidance, they finish their project, and they move on. You never see them again. But that of a mentor, you are interested in their career development and you work closely with them. So what are the roles of a mentor? Well, he should bounce ideas with the mentee. As you can see in this picture, you serve as a role model. You should serve as a source of inspiration. You should provide emotional support, because sometimes the journey can become tough. You should try to prevent burnout, and there are a lot of academic staff that are burning out and just moving on to other professions because of the challenges they face in the Nigerian space. You are to help the person develop his career, create opportunity, and introduce him or her into a network. So this is a quote that I love so much to illustrate the role of who a mentor is. It says, if you know where you are going, your journey is short. If you know how to get there, your journey is shorter. If you have someone who has been there to teach you how to get there, your journey is shortest. If that person decides to take you there, you are already there. That is what mentoring is all about. So it should be beneficial to the mentor and the mentee if the relationship is working well. So for mentees, they improve their scholarly performance and research productivity. You can, through the relationship, you can help them increased interest in research and aspiration to academic career. For mentors, it can provide very professional satisfaction in ensuring that junior colleagues become productive and successful. And you can, through your mentees, leave a legacy, because all of us will retire from this system one day, but we should have developed the mentees to take over from where we have stopped, so that the legacy that we have left will continue. And they can go ahead to inspire others. So if everything is working well, this is how the mentor-mentee relationship should actually be. So I have identified 6 best practices on supervision. First, training is important for the enrichment of supervision experience. You cannot give what you don't have. And a major challenge we have in Nigeria is that many of us as supervisors, we are not trained formally. We learn on the job, but we are living in a world with great complexity and challenges that simply learning on the job is not enough. Because some of us may have learned under very bad supervisors, and we think that is the way supervision should be done. So training is very important, very formal training about the intricacies and details of supervision. This is critical. Supervisors must guide students to conduct research relevant to the needs of their communities, but the student interest should be very important. A good supervisor should not impose his own interest on students, because if students are not interested in the research, they cannot take ownership and they will not put in their best. So we should strike a balance between the supervisor's competence and the student's own area of interest. And supervisors should never, under any circumstance, take advantage of their authority to exploit students. Supervisors occupy a position of authority, and they should always be conscious of this, never to take advantage of that authority figure, or that authority that they have, to exploit, such as asking students to do things that are personal, not related to their work as students. So supervisors should be mindful of this. The fourth best practice, supervisors should supervise research topics in which they have adequate competence. If you don't know, if a student brings a research topics for which you don't have competence, you need to declare and advise students to either you can invite someone else to join in the team, or simply declare that you have no competence in this area. There's no need trying to adjust on a topic or research in which you have little confidence, because if you do not know, how will you be able to guide students to do research appropriately? The sixth point is that supervisors must promote integrity through teaching and practice. Through our behaviors, our students get to learn, and so we should be mindful of what we say and what we do. And what we do matters more, because people tend to learn from what they see others do, particularly their supervisors. And it's always good for the supervision experience to be guided by a formal contract. It's always good to formalize the relationship. So we'll have opportunity to talk more about this during the discussion time. So now I want to tell you my own experience, what I've learned from my supervisor and from my mentors. I have 3 mentors, and I'm going to tell you, this is my first mentor. I was a pretty much younger person. This was in 2000, the day I defended my PhD. My mentor, Professor Joshua Adeni, who is late now, visited my home to congratulate me. He was the chair of the committee. He was the HOD at that time. And despite the fact that he congratulated me in the office, in the HOD's office where the exam was held, he still came to my home. I was really touched by that. Everything could have ended in the office, but he came home to rejoice with me, and I will never forget that experience. That's why this is one of the most valuable pictures that I have of him. So he introduced me to the MPH program because I went to him in search of a job after my graduation for the bachelor's program. And he said, no, you don't need a job now. You need further training. So why don't you come and enroll in an MPH program? I never knew anything about public health at that time. I took this recommendation. I applied, I was admitted, and I completed the training. And he facilitated my employment as a lecturer in the same department. So he has played a very important role in my career. Each time when he was alive in the department, he would ask me, you have to publish. It was from him I had the concept, publish or perish. It didn't really make much meaning to me initially, but he was always reminding me of the importance of publishing my work. He also taught me the importance of hard work and the skills that I will require when I consult for organizations. None of these things were taught in the classroom. So I learned these things from him through personal interaction because he took special interest in me to develop my career. So I owe a lot to him, Professor Adeni of blessed memory. This is my second mentor. This is Professor William Brigger, 75 years old now. He's a retired professor from the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health in Baltimore, Maryland. He provided the funding for my PhD research. I enrolled for the PhD, but I did not have funding to launch the research. So he told me, well, what we can do to help you, there was a particular grant at that time. He said, well, you can come and work with us on the grant, and the cost for your PhD research will be borne by the research. Without that support, it will have been very difficult for me to start or even complete my PhD. He also served as my supervisor, the supervisor for my PhD program. He was in our department for many years before he relocated to the US. He taught me the importance of character. He said, character is so important that many people have academic qualification but do not have character. He said, character is so important that if an organization is looking for a consultant and they cannot find anyone locally, say in Nigeria, they'll go to Brazil or Australia to find that individual. Think about the cost it will take to bring such person to consult in Nigeria. So he told me that in anything you do, be reliable, keep your word, keep in touch with people. They'll remember this. It will take you far in your career. And I never forget all of these things that he taught me. He also taught me how to write grant application and to conduct good research. So he involved me in the process of writing, teaching me that, okay, these are the things you need to put in your application. After the application, you need to reach out to people. And one thing that I will always remember about him, wherever I am, when we get in touch in the department, we say, what are you working on now? Meaning, he's trying to track my progress. You should always be engaged in a particular activity at any point in time. He also taught me the importance of integrity, hard work, and that I should always keep in touch. That if I want to get the best from people, I should never wait until I need help from them. I should always keep in touch at important occasions. When I do reach out to such persons for help, they'll know that already this person is calling, not because he needs help, but because he loves the relationship. So I learned all of this from Professor William Brigger. This is my third mentor. This is Professor David Olale. He's also of blessed memory. And he involved me in 4 major research and training grants. I learned a lot by participation in those activities. He also taught me how to manage allowance that I get from grant. He told me, Demola, you'll be earning a lot of money, but be sure you use these resources well, because a day is coming when you will need these resources if you want to send your children abroad. So he was one of those who fought to ensure that we are, those who are involved in the research are paid in the currency in which the sponsors give the awards. So if the currency is in US dollars, all investigators are paid in that currency. Previously, people are paid in Naira with the official rate, and he said, no, we're all involved, both we who are here and our colleagues who are in other countries, everybody should be paid in that currency. So he told me that I should use my resources well. And I took that particular suggestion very well, and it has served me in good stead. He also taught me university administration. One of the things he said is that once you are taking a position, go and read the guidelines properly. Read the guidelines properly and know the spirit behind every letter of university rules and regulations. So this helped me when I was in difficult situation as a dean. I read the guideline. I faced a difficult challenge and I didn't know what to do. So I read the guideline, and that gave me opportunity of how to solve the problem. So he also taught me how the decorum to be adopted during appointment and promotion panels. He said the first couple of weeks you are there, just observe how things are done. And that when you are making your contribution, be sure you have cogent points. And that before you attend any meeting, any central A&P, either local, either the college or central A&P, read everything that has been submitted. Read the agenda, read all the presentation, read all the recommendations by the assessors. When you do that, you are well prepared to make meaningful and important contribution at the meeting. So these are the things that I learned from Professor Lale, and these have also helped me. Now, I have talked about my own personal experience, and I want to suggest what you can do to assist junior faculty, particularly in the area of writing and publishing their manuscripts in peer-reviewed journals. So the next set of slides that I have concrete suggestions of what you can do to make a difference in the career projection, career advancement of the young faculty that you'll be mentoring in your different universities and institutions. So I brought this slide just to illustrate the point that when it comes to manuscript, a major reason why papers are rejected is that, as you can see in this slide, that the paper is poorly written. It has excessive jargon. That's number one most frequently cited reason why editors reject papers. What it tells us is that it's good to do the science, but you should also learn how to make presentation. Because if the paper is poorly written, it's likely to be rejected, regardless of how well the research was done. The second problem, which is related to the first one, is if the presentation is inadequate or inappropriate. If the authors have not read the guideline provided by the journal, it serves as an irritation to editors. It means that the authors are not paying attention to details. They've not even gone to read the guidelines that are provided. They've not even read a recent published paper in that journal. So for this reason, papers are typically thrown out. And of course, if the design is poorly described. The other reasons are, as you can see, if there's excessive self-promotion, the rationale for the study is confused or contradictory, they are missing important data, the paper is simply boring, or does not acknowledge the work of others. So as mentors, we should be mindful of this. Paper should be well written in the language of the discipline, and it should be well presented if it is to have a chance of being accepted. Now, in helping junior faculty, it is helpful to look at this model. This looked at the IMRAD IMLD model. That is, this spidergram can help transfer skills for manuscript writing. It talks of the introduction, the method, result, and discussion. But what is often missed is that before you start to write, a researcher should sit back after all the analysis have been done. What exactly is the message that I want to pass on in this paper? That should be clearly identified. So, for example, if the research is about stress that are related to publication among university lecturers, if your data is showing that most lecturers in Nigeria experience publication-related stress, then that should be the central theme, should be the message that you want to pass on. So once the message is clear, it's now easy to talk about the introduction. Why did you do the research? What motivated you to conduct the research? What were the gaps in knowledge? How did you do the research? That talks about your methodology. What did you really find? And what does it mean? If this spidergram is used, it becomes easy to actually teach young faculty how they can structure their paper and get their message out in a way that increases the chance of having the paper published. So this is a scheme that can be very helpful when you have the opportunity to teach, to transfer skills for manuscript writing. And the key factor in writing, actually, which you should let them know, is that it is not so much about knowledge and skills, but time management. So if publication is important, you make a commitment and you set aside the time to start to write and finish the paper. So when people say, I have many papers in the works, well, there will be many, but you must concentrate. Take one paper at a time, make a commitment, set aside the time, start the writing, and finish it. So this is a key point that should always go out to young faculty, that they should make the time for writing. And that time can be, every individual have the best time that they write. For me personally, early in the morning is my best time. The idea seems to flow better. My writings are better with clarity. So once the young faculty knows that he must make a commitment, he must set aside the time to start and finish the paper. So this is a key point that you can always. Yes, I brought this in for you to laugh, and you can see some of the key points here. I do not know which one of them is of most that will make you laugh the most, but the one that has really caught my own fancy, it says there's a vacancy. A male sex guest is required, is wanted. So that tells you about the errors that people often make. And this one says, come and cut your head here. It means come and cut your hair, but you see the errors. So this is just to make you laugh, but to emphasize the point that there are many errors people make. Also, this is an example of the different errors that are in the public space. Some of these errors also find their way into the manuscript that we write. So this one says, English is our language, no exceptions, learn it. This is how school is wrongly spelled. You can see all the letters are there, but they are wrongly arranged. This is also an example of errors that sometimes often find their way into the manuscript that we write. It's just to emphasize the point that when writing, we should be careful that errors are not introduced. And thank God that we have many AI tools now to help our writing, at least to correct grammar, typo errors. I will encourage you to always tell your mentees to install appropriate ones, and they are free. It will help your writing. It will help their writing, so that errors that usually cause irritation to and can be embarrassing to the writer are spotted and they are corrected. But in addition to the use of AI, I also often print a hard copy of what I have written. So I go through it because there are some errors that you may miss, but when you have the hard copy, you have the chance of even spotting errors. This is very important because many times what we write, either as grant, manuscript, is very competitive. There are other people who are doing similar, who are involved. And if your own writing is so poor with many grammatical errors, your chance of succeeding, your chance of having the paper accepted is quite limited. So at a minimum, your writing should be clear, should be error-free, and you should convey the information the way you want it for readers to understand. It's also important to help your faculty, your mentees, how to identify appropriate journal. So many times, young faculties don't know where to publish. So as mentors, you should help them. And I strongly recommend you going to African Journal Online. You have all different journals in different disciplines that are available online, at a job. And they have all been vetted, and many of them are of good quality. So depending on the discipline, you could always encourage them to go to a job, and they should scroll. They can search by title, they can in alphabetical order, they can search by discipline, they can search by country. So Ajol is a very good platform that I highly recommend to you to recommend for your mentees to look for appropriate journal to publish their work. And it's always good to read a similar paper, a recent paper in that particular journal, so that when you are writing, you'll be able to follow instructions. And these are the instructions that are typically required. I will not go into this detail. Yes, you should also help them identify predatory journals. And many predatory journals are available now. Each day you receive requests to publish. We should be able to separate good journals from predatory ones. And I have a number of red flags that you could let your mentees know. So if the journal have no ISI or DOI number, may suggest that it may be predatory. If there are no contact details or website of the journal, if the titles have a country name in them, it's American Journal of History, but it is actually published in Nairobi or in Ibadan, Nigeria, you know that typically that is a red flag. If they try to mimic other journal titles that you are aware, if there is excessive advertisement, if they are not linked to accredited publishing bodies, and if they promise you good publishing time, some even 24 hours, if they don't have a very good peer review, you know that all these are red flags that your mentees should look out for and ensure they are not victims of a predatory journal. You should also tell them they can go to this website, Think, Check, Submit. If you click on this, there are a number of questions that you need to answer before you decide what type of journal it is. Is the journal, have somebody else in your department read the journal? Does it have a very clear peer review instruction? Does it have article processing fees and how you are going to pay? Does he have any credible publisher? So if you click on this website, it's actually give you a lot of information about what to look out for so that your mentee do not fall a victim of a predictive journal. Then you should encourage them to work as a team, not in silos. The challenges we face nowadays are complicated, and to address them, we need teamwork. And nobody actually make progress by just working alone. Anyone who works alone is not likely to go far in his career. And everyone should develop the ability to work as a productive member of a team. So what does team stand for? Together, everyone actually achieve more. So encourage them never to work in silos. Encourage them to work in teams, because when you work in teams, you have many advantages. So what are those advantages that are critical but in teamwork? So if it is a grant application, your opportunity for success is higher, because particularly if the team is multidisciplinary. If you work as a team, your chance of success is increased because you are able to assign tasks. You are able to complete tasks within a short period of time. The turnaround time will be more than if you are working alone. And you have different perspectives that are provided. We all have ways in which we look at issues based on our training, our background. But when you bring a multidisciplinary team, areas that you have overlooked may be brought in, and the perspective can be enriched through different contributions. And you leverage on different talents. People have different talents and different abilities. Some people are good at writing background. Some people are good at writing the design, the method. Some are good with results, and some are good with discussion. So, and then it can give you better opportunity for more publication, because the turnaround time for writing is usually shorter if you work as a team than if you are working alone. If you want to undertake writing all the sections alone, it will take you months. But if you share this task out in group, you'll be able to do it in very short time. 1 week, 2 weeks, a draft is ready. So encourage your mentees to work in teams, not to work in silos. Very, very important. It's a reality of life that many times you write and your paper is rejected. So how will your mentee deal with rejection? You should let them know that they should never take any criticism personal. The fact that the paper is rejected in one journal does not mean the end of the road for that. The manuscript is not the end of the road for that manuscript. Take the criticisms that have been provided, read them carefully, understand, and if there's a way to improve the paper, do so, and let them know that they can always submit to another journal. But not to submit the same paper that has been rejected. You should always address the comment that the feedback that the reviewers have given. And they should be humble, because anyone who is in the academic world will all know that his work will be subject to scrutiny, and criticism is part of the job. Your work will be scrutinized, and you will receive criticism. And some criticism are not fair, but that's just part of the hazard of the profession. And if the paper is reversed, there's a good chance that another journal will accept it. So you should let them know that rejection is something they have to deal with. Then, as a good mentor, you should be a role model for prevention of scientific misconduct. So I said earlier that mentees tend to learn from what they see their mentors do. So you should be a good role model. You should avoid fabrication, that is cooking up data. You should avoid falsification. Don't change or misreport the data. And you should avoid plagiarism. You should avoid multiple publication of the same data, and avoid complementary or honorary authorship. Include as authors only those who deserve it. The next slide, I'm going to talk about the criteria for authorship. And don't exclude those who have made substantial contribution to a paper. And a paper should be submitted to a journal at a time. Don't submit two manuscripts to different journals, one manuscript to different journals at the same time, because many times the journal will ask the question, is this paper being considered in another journal? So if you have submitted it and you lie, you are already involved in misconduct. So a manuscript should be submitted to a journal at a time. So what are the criteria for authorship? According to International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, 4 criteria are important. First, the individual should make substantial contribution to the conception or design of the work or the acquisition of the data, drafting of the revising the work, final approval, an agreement to be accountable to all aspects of the work. So all of these, it is the drafting and revising the work that is most important. Because if the individual has not contributed in the writing, how can he defend the content of the paper? It should be difficult. So the writing of the manuscript is the most important criterion for authorship. So anybody who has not contributed to the writing does not deserve to be an author. That individual may be acknowledged in the section of acknowledgement, the contributions they have made, because if someone has not made have not been involved in the writing, he cannot meaningfully defend the content. You should also encourage young faculty to join a journal club. How do journal clubs operate? Usually, members of the club will identify a paper that will be of mutual interest. A paper is already published, and they will critique the paper to identify what the key message of the article is, how rigorous is the design, how adequate is the analysis and presentation of the result, and the weaknesses on strength of the paper, even though the paper is already published. So members of the club learn important lessons. That through this review, they identify best practices as far as writing is concerned, that the papers may still have flaws, even though it has been published. And they, more importantly, can improve their own writing. They can improve their own writing by avoiding the flaws that they have found in the paper. So a journal club is very useful. Encourage your young faculty to join and make meaningful contribution to the activities of the club. And many times, you should use a sandwich approach when you are providing feedback on the manuscript that your mentees have submitted to you. What is a sandwich approach? Well, you should start by praising them to encourage them for what they have done. Secondly, you should criticize constructively, that is, to provide suggestions. And lastly, you should give more praise and encouragement. So you see, your criticism is somewhere in between. You start with the praise, you provide the criticism in a constructive way, provide useful suggestions on the areas they need to improve, and end up with encouragement so that they are motivated to do the revisions that are required. This has been found to be a very productive way. And don't just focus on just criticism alone. When you do that, you tend to demotivate, and the incentive to work on the paper is reduced when you adopt this approach. So this sandwich approach is usually considered a very, very effective way if you do it well. So before I conclude, there is a point that came to me yesterday before after I've submitted these slides. You should also teach your mentee how to use the AI responsibly. how should they use the AI ethically? The AI has have come to stay. Whether you like it or not, it will be available, and they will play even more role, even in our writing. So, what was the ethical use of the AI? Don't take everything that you get from the AI as being truthful or authoritative. I'll share with you my own experience. I was writing a paper, an application, a proposal sometimes ago, and I was looking for a particular idea. I ran out of the idea through my own thinking. So I put the question to ChatGPT, and it produced many ideas. But the ChatGPT did not put the references, and I wanted to avoid plagiarism. So I now asked the AI to include the references. But many references popped up, and I went to check each of those references. There are about 2 or 3 references that I could not find. Even when I've quoted the title, the journal, I put it in the search engine, I couldn't find them. So how did this paper get to, how is ChatGPT now quoting it? Then I realized that sometimes ChatGPT manufacture ideas that are not really there. Ideally, AI should reproduce information that has been programmed into a system. But sometimes AI can model up point and just bring something on, and even cite it as a reference. So it's a responsible way of using the AI. So such references you should not use, because possibly they do not exist. So that's what I mean by responsible use of AI. Also, our institutions should develop policy on the use of AI. To the best of my knowledge, at least in the University of Ibadan, we do not have a policy yet. So without a policy, we cannot regulate how these are used, particularly when students are writing. Yes, we have the Turnitin that we identify similarity, but it's not enough. So as people who occupy a position of authority, you should encourage your universities to develop policies, and particularly for your mentees, tell them that they should use the AI responsibly. So I want to conclude now. Supervision plays a crucial role in preparation of the next generation of researchers, scholars, and postgraduate teachers. And mentorship is a proven strategy for the improvement of researchers, scholars, and postgraduate, for productivity of researchers, scholars, and postgraduate teachers. You senior faculties have important role to play in advancing the careers of your mentees. And you can do so when you yourself have developed yourself, put into consideration some of the points that we have mentioned during this presentation. And institutions need to develop policies to provide incentive for mentors. Yes, this is a point that I think is very important. So although mentors get satisfaction from seeing their mentees grow and achieve, but if you develop a system of incentive for mentors, like we have done for supervision, I think this can also help encourage mentors to do more. On that note, I say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Uncle. Thank you so much, Uncle Demo. Let's show appreciation by sharing, emojis of appreciation. There's so many appreciations online and also physically here with you. A few questions. I'll take them. I would read all the questions to you. We only have 6 minutes, and then hopefully we'll take about 5 together. Would that work, Uncle Demo?
Sure, it will.
Excellent. So the first one asks whether all the journals listed on Agile are free of predatory journals, that are all Agile journals, not predatory journals. I have a few questions, and then I think that will come to 5, and then we'll take a next round if we have time. One has to do with mentorship. Well, you said very brilliantly that mentorship is usually a lifetime thing, but you have many people that call you into programs and say, do this 3 months mentorship, 9 months mentorship, 12 months mentorship. Is that also mentorship, or otherwise is it misnamed? And it should otherwise be coaching. I learned there's things called coaching, supervision, and mentorship. Is it a misnomer? And is this things that make people say negative things about mentorship? You've raised issue of ownership of data by candidates and supervisor. This seems to continuously be a problem, even on our platform. You saw it already arise in less than 12 hours. What does this mean when we're talking about supervision and data ownership? We also hear about, you said brilliantly about assigning supervisors. Is it the university that should assign supervisors, or should students pick their supervisors? How should this work best? And then in terms of mentors, should mentors also find their mentees, or is it the mentees that find their mentors? I think on that note, I'll keep quiet. And there's so many. Thank you, including myself. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Now, I recommend Ajor because it is a platform that has been vetted, and it is a platform that is supposed to help those of us on the continent where we're looking for where to publish our work. So I will recommend Ajor because it is a platform where editors come together, and the journals that are there, I will say they are fairly of good quality. However, if you do identify a journal, you should still vet it from Ajor. You should still vet it from those red flags that I talk about. So just look at a recent publication, a recent edition of the journal, and subject it to those vetting questions that I asked earlier to be sure that it is not predatory. But Ajor, to a large extent, I think is reliable. But still, be skeptical. Once it doesn't have any one of those red flags, go ahead and publish in it. It was created because we know that those of us from developing countries do not have the resources to for the article processing fees that are usually charged by the so-called international journal. And many of the research we do, they first have application to our own environment. So that's why Ajor was created. And that's why I recommend it. Now, the issue of mentorship, 9 months, to me, mentorship is a lifelong relationship. And it's not something you can do in 6 months. It's not something you can do in 9 months. We can call other things by coaching, all other names, but it's really not mentoring. Now, supervision and data ownership. This is the way how we approach it. It all depends. Sometimes the student is the one that has paid for the research, gone to the field. In that situation, the student owns the data, even though the university will award the degree. Okay, so there shouldn't be any question about who owns the data. However, if the student research is nested in a grant that the supervisor has, you know that data belongs not only to the student, but also to the supervisor, being the grant owner, and even the institution. So in situations like that, we can say, well, there's a co-ownership. But of course, the student will need that data in order to earn the degree that will be examined. So in situations like that, we can talk about co-ownership. Now, the third question, should university assign? Typically in Nigerian universities, it is at the level of masters, at least. It is the institution, the department that assigns students, that assigns students to supervisors. But at the PhD level, in my department at least, before you can be accepted into the program, you must have a concurrence of a supervisor who is willing to take you on. So At the PhD level, the student can reach out to a supervisor based on the interest of that supervisor. The supervisor must be willing. And once that is done at the departmental level, the supervisor is willing and the student has approached the supervisor, then that student is assigned. So, but at the master's level, the students are assigned randomly to supervisor. But I've seen situations where a student is assigned to me on a research that I do not have much competence. And I say, no, why don't you contact my colleague? If it's an area where I do not have expertise, I can recommend that a colleague take up that student at the level of the master's. But at PhD level, students can reach out to, potential students can reach out to supervisors. And once the supervisor is willing, then the department can assign that supervisor, that student to that supervisor. So I think those are the questions that are coming. We can, our time is up, but we can take if there are other issues.
Yes, I think there are two questions, but we'll close at this time. They're really long. One asked about you reiterating how to handle reject paper. I think if they go through, if you listen again to the presentation, the YouTube is alive and it's there forever. You can retreat on that. One talked about the template for the supervisor schedule. I'm sure if you go when we get back to the platform, we can continue this engagement. At this time, I want to say thank you so much. I didn't doubt about your brilliance, and I'm so glad everybody has also discovered you again on this platform. You have a mentor here saying thank you. On
Thank
that
you very
note,
much.
we'll continue our conversation over the next 2 weeks on the platform before we have our next topic. Have a wonderful morning, everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye. Yes, Chikumi. Morning. Okay. Thank you.
And please, can you shut down the platform in another 1 minute? Jesus.